Hello, Year 2, how are you? And welcome to today's English lesson. Now, in our English lesson yesterday, we wrote our first paragraph of our letters from Florence Nightingale to her family back home. And in the first paragraph, we described what Florence Nightingale found when she first arrived at the hospital in Scutari. Well, today we're going to be carrying on with our letter and writing paragraph 2 and the conclusion. So in paragraph 2, we're going to be writing how we changed the hospital, how we, who are pretending to be Florence Nightingale, changed the hospital. And then in the last paragraph, which is our conclusion, we are going to be writing a couple of sentences just to finish our letter off. So what are the last things that we want to say to our family back home before we sign off the letter? Now, yesterday, after we wrote our letter, we checked for any corrections or any improvements. So we checked for capital letters, we checked for punctuation, that all of our expanded noun phrases and exclamation sentences and questions were all formed correctly, and we looked for any other improvements that we could make. So we're also going to be doing this again after we have written our different parts of our letter. Now, one thing that I think is particularly tricky is imagining that we are Florence Nightingale, because I think in this situation it's quite easy just to tell a story about somebody else. But we are writing a letter as if we are Florence Nightingale. So we really need to pretend that we are Florence Nightingale. And this is tricky, okay? So we're going to do a little bit more practice on this for our starter activity. So here are 4 sentences, and they're all written in the third person. And we need to change them to the first person. So we've got Florence Nightingale and the other nurses helped improve the hygiene in the hospital. The doctor finally accepted Florence Nightingale's help. Because Florence Nightingale made the hospitals more hygienic, more and more soldiers were recovering, and the soldiers are calling her the Lady of the Lamp, okay? So I would like to pause the video and have a go at changing these sentences into the first person, and then we will go through them together to double check afterwards, okay? So pause the video now and have a go. Okay, Year 2, so let's go through them together. Well, the first one, Florence Nightingale and the other nurses. Now, if we say Florence Nightingale and the other nurses, that means that we're talking about Florence Nightingale, who isn't ourselves, and the other nurses. So we're not part of that, are we? But we need to be part of that if it's the first person. So therefore, how can we change Florence Nightingale and the other nurses so there are still a group of nurses, but I am one of them? Yes, we can use we, can't we? We helped improve the hygiene in the hospital, because when we use we, there is a group of people, but I am one of those people. Okay, the next one. The doctor finally accepted Florence Nightingale's help. Now, I'm talking about Florence Nightingale's help, not anything that I've done. So how can I change Florence Nightingale's help to make it into the first person so that it's about me? Well, yes, I will have to use my help. The doctor finally accepted my help. So now I'm talking about myself in the first person. Okay, the next one. Because Florence Nightingale made the hospitals more hygienic, more and more soldiers were recovering. So again, we are talking about Florence Nightingale here as if we aren't her, which we aren't. But in this letter, we need to pretend that we are. So how can we change this sentence into the first person? Yes, I can use the personal pronoun I, because I made the hospitals more hygienic, more and more soldiers were recovering. Okay, the last one. The soldiers are calling her, so Florence Nightingale, that's not myself, the Lady of the Lamp. But I want Florence Nightingale to be myself because I'm writing a letter from her to her family. So how can I change? The soldiers are calling her the Lady of the Lamp. Well, we're going to have to change the personal pronoun her, aren't we? What can we change this to? Yes, we can change it to me. The soldiers are calling me the Lady of the Lamp. Well, fantastic. Well done if you got those right. And as I said, this will really help you with writing the letter, because it is tricky to imagine that you are someone else and write from their perspective using first person when you're actually not them. But hopefully this activity has helped refresh your memory on the different personal pronouns you can use when writing in the first person. So as I said, today we are going to be starting with paragraph 2, which is where we describe what we have done to help improve the hospital in Scutari as if we are Florence Nightingale. Now here is my plan for paragraph 2 that I made the other day, and it's got lots of exclamation sentences, lots of adverbs of time. I've got some questions, some conjunctions, a lot of conjunctions, and some expanded noun phrases. Now, I've also got soldiers are recovering. Now, that's not in the past progressive, is it? Well, no, it's because I'm writing the letter now and I'm talking about something that I'm doing at the moment that's in progress, okay? So I'm improving the hospitals and I'm doing it over a long period of time, but I'm doing it in the present, not in the past. It's happening now and it's in progress, okay? So the soldiers are recovering, so they are in the process of recovering, but it's going to take some time. Okay, so let's see how I change my plan into my second paragraph of my letter. So a few weeks ago, I arrived at the hospital and the doctor didn't want any help. But after more and more people started arriving, he finally accepted my help. Now, I wanted to help as soon as I saw the hospital, didn't I? Because it was a real mess, wasn't it? So I'm going to describe how I felt when I first saw how awful the hospital was. So I'm going to write, after I saw how unhygienic the hospital was, I knew I had to do something to help. Okay, so I've got the word after here, and I put after I saw how unhygienic the hospital was, after I saw how disgusting the hospital was, after I saw how unclean the hospital was. Okay, so lots of different adjectives that you can use to describe the hospital, but I've used after. Now, I have used this as a subordinating conjunction. Now, I have used it at the beginning of my sentence. So my subordinate clause is at the beginning, not at the end, but you know that you can change them around. So after I saw how unhygienic the hospital was, I knew I had to do something to help. After a few days, oh, now what's that year two? Yes, after a few days is another adverb of time. So after a few days, that tells me when. We eventually persuaded the doctor to let us. So after a few days is when we persuaded the doctor to let us help. And I have used us because I am talking about me, myself, and the other nurses. And I am part of that group of nurses. So I'm going to use us. Okay, well, I've been accepted. He has accepted my help. So now I'm going to do something about it. So what have I done about it that I can tell my parents? Well, straight away, oh, what type of word is that? What type of phrase is that? Yes, again, that is an adverb of time, isn't it? Because it's telling me when this happened. So straight away, as soon as he accepted my help, I organised for many brand new clean blankets to arrive. Oh, yeah, too. What have I used there? Yes, I've used, oh, there we go. I have used an expanded noun phrase. So I've got my determiner, many, and my two adjectives, brand new and clean, and then my noun, blankets. Okay, you could say many brand new fresh blankets, many fresh clean blankets. Okay, to arrive. And for each soldier to receive a nutritious cooked meal every day. For each soldier to receive a healthy cooked meal every day. For each soldier to receive a hot cooked meal every day. So what have I used again here, year two? Well, yes, I have used an expanded noun phrase to describe the meals because they were nutritious and cooked. And those are my two adjectives. And then I've got my determiner, a, and I've got my noun, meal. Okay, now, what am I going to talk about next? Well, I didn't just order order clean blankets, did I? And I didn't just organise for them to have meals. The main thing that I did was to make the hospital more hygienic. So what would I have done to do that? Well, I'm going to tell my family that together, so me and all the other nurses, we also scrubbed the hospital until it shone like a new penny. So I've described just how clean it was. It shone just like a new penny. Okay, now I would like to express how happy I am, how much of a change my cleaning has made to the hospital. So I'm going to use an exclamation sentence next, and I'm going to start with what. Now, after what, I know that I need to use a noun phrase, which needs to include an adjective and a noun. And I need to make sure I've got my exclamation mark at the end, because an exclamation mark always needs to come at the end of an exclamation sentence, doesn't it? So I'm going to write, what an amazing difference a little bit of cleaning can make. Okay, it hasn't highlighted all of my exclamation sentence, but it goes from what an amazing difference a little bit of cleaning can make. So look, I started with what. I've got my noun phrase, so I've got amazing as my adjective and difference as my noun. A little bit of cleaning can make, with an exclamation mark at the end. So that's expressing just how much of an impact my cleaning has made to the hospital. Okay, now I want to say what effect my cleaning has had on the soldiers. So how's my cleaning helped the soldiers? Well, I want to use the subordinating conjunction because here. Okay, now I'm going to use it at the start of my sentence. So I'm going to put my subordinate clause at the start. So I'm going to say, oh, there we go, it's highlighting the rest. So I'm going to say, oh, and again, I'll say it again. So I'm going to say, because we have made the hospital more hygienic, more and more soldiers are recovering. So there is my subordinating conjunction, because, and I put it at the beginning of my sentence with my subordinate clause at the start. But remember, you could say more soldiers are recovering because we have made the hospital more hygienic. Okay, so you can have it either way round. Now, what have I used here? More and more soldiers are recovering. Well, remember I said that we don't use the past progressive when we're talking about something that's going on in the present, that's progressing in the present. So I have used instead the present progressive. More soldiers are recovering. So rather than using the past tense of to be, I've used the present tense of to be. They are recovering. Okay, now I want to tell my family just how relieved I am about that I'm helping the soldiers because I've cleaned the hospital. Now I want to use another exclamation sentence for this, and I want to start with what again. And I remember from last time that I have to use a noun phrase after what. And I have to make sure I use my exclamation sentence at the end. So I'm going to write, what a great relief, okay, because I'm relieved that everything that I've done has had an impact, has helped the hospital. Okay, now I want to now imagine what it would have been like had I not done everything that I did. So had I not helped at the hospital, what would it have been like? So I'm going to use the subordinating conjunction if, because that shows a condition, doesn't it? So I'm going to say, I can't imagine what the death rate would have been if they hadn't accepted my help. So I've got the subordinating conjunction if, and then my subordinate clause at the end if they hadn't accepted our help. And again, I've used are because I'm talking about myself and the other nurses. So I'm using the first person pronoun to describe we as a group.